March 15, 2024. The Silver Dollar Casino had seen better days, but tonight it hosted the Regional Fighting Championship. Tommy Malone sat in the back row nursing his third beer, trying to stay invisible. The champion strutted around the ring, microphone in hand, calling for volunteers. "Anyone think they can last 2 minutes with me?" The crowd laughed. Tommy kept his head down. Then the fighter pointed directly at him. "You, old man, come show these people what you're made of." 300 people started chanting. Tommy had no choice but to climb into that ring. The fighter removed his hood, and Tommy's blood turned to ice. Jason Statham smiled. The same smile his father wore before Tommy accidentally killed him in 1987. "Hello, Tommy," Jason whispered during the pre-fight instructions. "Been looking for you." That's when Tommy realized this wasn't random at all. "Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you." Tommy's hands trembled as he backed toward the ropes, the arena lights suddenly feeling like searchlights exposing 35 years of running. The crowd's roar became white noise, drowned out by the thundering of his own heartbeat. Jason moved forward with predatory grace, rolling his shoulders, warming up muscles that looked carved from granite. "The ref can't hear us over this noise," Jason said, his voice calm, almost conversational. "So let's have ourselves a proper chat before I break every bone in your body." The referee was busy playing to the crowd, gesturing wildly as he explained the rules to the bloodthirsty audience. 2 minutes. All Tommy had to do was survive 2 minutes. But looking into Jason's eyes, those same steel gray eyes that had haunted his nightmares, Tommy knew this wouldn't be about lasting 2 minutes. This was about paying a debt that had been accumulating interest for decades. "I didn't mean for it to happen," Tommy whispered, hating how pathetic he sounded. "Didn't mean for what? To kill my father with an illegal kidney shot? To walk away from that underground ring while he bled out on the canvas? Or didn't mean to spend 35 years hiding like a coward?" Each word hit harder than any punch Tommy had ever taken. He'd replayed that night in Manchester countless times, the roar of the crowd in the abandoned warehouse, the smell of sweat and desperation, the sickening crack when his fist connected wrong. Michael Statham had been favored to win, but Tommy was younger then, hungrier, and when the opening came, he took it. The kidney shot was instinct, muscle memory from years of brutal fights where survival mattered more than rules. But Michael's kidney had been damaged from a previous fight, something no one knew, something that turned Tommy's desperate counterattack into a death sentence. "Found you 3 months ago," Jason continued, circling now like a shark. "Took some doing. Tommy Malone doesn't exist anymore, does he? You're Thomas Malecki now. Nice little auto shop. Shame about the business, though. Heard you're about to lose everything." The crowd was getting restless. The referee turned back to them, raising his hands for the traditional touch of gloves. Tommy's mouth felt like sawdust. His legs, once capable of carrying him through 15 rounds with killers and psychopaths, felt like jelly. "How?" Tommy managed. "Immigration records. Took years to track the pattern. Tommy Malone vanished from Manchester in 1987. Thomas Malecki appeared in New York 6 months later. Different spelling, same initials. Sloppy, really." They touched gloves, Jason's grip lingering just long enough to be threatening. The referee backed away, checked with both corners, then raised his hand. "My father was 28, Jason said. "I was 8. Watched them lower his coffin into the ground while you were probably already planning your escape to America." The hand dropped. The bell rang. Jason exploded forward with a speed that defied his size. Tommy barely got his guard up before the first combination crashed into his forearms. Jab, cross, hook, each punch carrying the weight of 3 decades of hatred. The crowd erupted, sensing the mismatch immediately. Tommy backpedaled, using every trick he'd learned in those brutal underground years. Stay low, move the head, make him miss. But Jason wasn't some amateur casino fighter looking for beer money. He moved like water, flowed like violence incarnate, cutting off angles with the patience of a man who'd waited his entire adult life for this moment. A left hook grazed Tommy's temple, sending fireworks across his vision. He tried to clinch, to buy time, But Jason stepped back and drove an uppercut into his solar plexus that folded him like origami. The crowd was on its feet now, sensing blood. 35 years I've been getting ready for this, Jason whispered as Tommy gasped for air. Boxing, kickboxing, mixed martial arts. Every day thinking about you. Every day getting stronger. Another combination, this one to the body. And Tommy felt something crack. A rib, maybe two. He'd forgotten how much punishment the human body could absorb, how pain became just another opponent you had to outlast. The clock on the arena wall showed 90 seconds remaining. An eternity. Tommy threw a desperate right hand, putting everything behind it. The ghost of the fighter he used to be. The memory of younger days when his hands were weapons and fear was just another tool. But Jason slipped it easily, almost contemptuously, and countered with a hook that sent Tommy crashing into the turnbuckle. This isn't about the money, the title, or these people, Jason said, stalking forward. This is about a promise I made at a graveside. This is about justice 35 years overdue. The crowd chanted for blood. The referee watched, ready to stop it if it got too brutal. And somewhere in the back of his mind, Tommy realized that his ordinary life, the quiet auto shop, the simple routine of oil changes and brake jobs, was ending exactly the way his fighting career had begun, with violence, with consequences, with the past refusing to stay buried. The turnbuckle pressed against Tommy's back like a coffin wall, and for a moment, just a moment, time folded. He wasn't in this gaudy casino arena anymore. He was 8 years old again, watching his own father stumble home from the pub, fists clenched, looking for something to hit. He was 23, standing over Michael Statham's convulsing body while the underground crowd screamed. He was 35, holding his newborn daughter Sarah for the first time, her tiny fingers wrapped around his thumb, promising her silently that she'd never know violence the way he had. Sarah Christ, Sarah. The thought of her hit him harder than Jason's uppercut. She'd be closing the shop right about now, counting the day's meager receipts, probably worrying about the stack of overdue bills on his desk. At 28, the same age her father had been when he'd killed Michael Statham, though she didn't know that, Sarah had inherited his stubborn streak and her mother's gentle heart. She believed in him. Believed in their little auto shop. Believed in the fiction that Thomas Malecki was just a hard-working mechanic who'd emigrated from Poland decades ago. She'd been 3 when they'd moved to Copper Falls, young enough to accept the story without question. He'd chosen this dying Nevada town precisely because it was forgettable, a place where the desert wind erased footprints and nobody asked too many questions about your past. Population 847, give or take whoever left for Vegas and never came back. 1 main street, 2 bars, a gas station, and Malecki's auto repair, where the sign still bore the bullet holes from some long-forgotten drunken dispute. Jason fainted left, and Tommy flinched, his body betraying the terror his mind was trying to suppress. The crowd laughed. They'd paid to see a fight, not a slaughter. But Jason didn't press the attack. He was savoring this, letting Tommy's fear marinate. "Tell me about her," Jason said, settling into a boxer's stance. "Your daughter." "Sarah, isn't it?" Ice water flooded Tommy's veins. "You leave her out of this." "Pretty girl. Works late most nights. Walks home alone down Miners Road." Jason's smile was surgical in its precision. A lot of things can happen to a young woman alone in the desert. A lot of accidents. "I'll fucking kill you." The words came from somewhere primal, somewhere that predated thought. Tommy lunged forward, wild with rage, but Jason was ready. A straight right hand caught him flush on the jaw, sending him spinning into the ropes. The arena swam in and out of focus. He could taste copper, feel warmth trickling down his chin. Through the haze, he saw fragments of his real life. Not this nightmare, but the quiet existence he'd built from nothing. Saturday mornings when Sarah would bring him coffee while he worked on Mrs. Henderson's ancient Buick. The way she hummed while doing the books, the same tuneless melody her mother used to hum. The fierce pride in her eyes when she'd managed to fix something herself, grease under her fingernails, hair tied back in a ponytail. She thought he was brave for starting over in a new country. She had no idea he was a coward who'd run from the ruins of someone else's life. 45 seconds, the timekeeper called. Jason was toying with him now, landing shots at will, a jab to open the cut above Tommy's left eye. a hook to the ribs that sent fresh lightning through his already damaged torso. Tommy covered up, turtled against the ropes, and remembered teaching Sarah to change oil when she was 12. Her small hands struggling with the wrench, her determination to prove she could do anything the boys could do. "This is boring," Jason said, stepping back. "Fight me, old man. Show me what you showed my father before you murdered him." The crowd was getting restless again. Someone threw a beer cup that splashed against the canvas. The referee moved closer, hand raised, ready to stop the massacre. Tommy knew he should let it happen. Fall down, stay down, let them carry him out on a stretcher. Live to see tomorrow, to hug his daughter, to pretend this was all just a nightmare. But Sarah would be watching. The whole town would be watching. And despite everything, despite the decades of running, the new name, the carefully constructed lies, some part of Tommy the Hammer Malone still existed, some part that couldn't let his daughter see him quit. He straightened up, dropped his hands, and looked Jason in the eyes. "Come on then," he whispered, blood speckling his lips. "Finish it." Jason's eyes narrowed. For the first time since this began, he looked genuinely surprised, maybe even impressed. 20 seconds. Came the call. The crowd sensed something shifting. The noise level dropped as Jason stalked forward, measuring Tommy for the knockout punch. But something had changed in those steel-gray eyes. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. This was about respect. Jason's fist was halfway to Tommy's jaw when the bell rang. The sound cut through the arena like a blade, freezing the moment in amber. Jason's punch stopped inches from Tommy's face, close enough that Tommy could feel the wind from it, could see the calluses on knuckles that had been conditioned for this single purpose. The crowd erupted in confusion, some cheering, others booing the interruption, most simply bewildered by what they'd witnessed. But Jason didn't step back. He stayed there, fist suspended, eyes locked on Tommy's bloodied face. And in that frozen tableau, something shifted. The Predator's mask slipped, revealing something raw underneath. "You know what the worst part is?" Jason whispered, his voice barely audible over the crowd's noise. "I've been carrying this hate for 35 years, and you don't even remember his name. Michael." The word escaped Tommy's lips like a prayer. Michael Statham, 28 years old, had a scar through his left eyebrow from a childhood accident. Tommy's voice grew steadier, clearer. Favorite combination was jab-jab cross-hook, weak on his left side because of an old shoulder injury. Fought out of Manchester, trained at Riley's gym above the butcher shop. Jason's fist wavered. "He talked about you," Tommy continued, wiping blood from his mouth. "Before the fight. Said he had a son. Said after this bout he was done. One last payday, then he was hanging up his gloves." Tommy straightened against the ropes, 35 years of buried truth finally surfacing. "He showed me a picture. A little boy with a gap-toothed smile holding a toy car." "Stop!" Jason's voice cracked like a whip, but his punch remained frozen. "He was going to buy you a bicycle, a red one. Said you'd been asking for it all summer." Tommy's words came faster now, decades of suppressed memory flooding back. "The kidney shot, I felt something give way the moment I threw it. I knew. Even before he went down, I knew something was wrong." The referee was moving toward them, trying to separate the fighters, but Jason waved him off with his free hand. The crowd had gone quieter, sensing this wasn't following the usual script. "You ran," Jason said, his fist still inches from Tommy's face. "You killed my father and you ran like a coward." "I tried to help him." Tommy's voice was barely a whisper now. "When he went down, I dropped to my knees, tried to stop the bleeding. But the crowd, they thought it was part of the show. They were cheering while your father died." Something in Jason's eyes shifted. Not forgiveness, that would take lifetimes, but recognition. The recognition that the monster he'd built in his mind over 3 decades might be more complex than the simple villain of his nightmares. "The promoter pulled me away," Tommy continued. "Said the police would be there soon. Said if they found me, it would mean prison. Manslaughter at minimum. I was 23, scared, stupid. I should have stayed, should have faced whatever came." He looked directly into Jason's eyes. "I should have found you. Should have..." "Should have what?" Jason's fist dropped to his side. "Should have said sorry? Should have given me money? Should have replaced my father?" The crowd was getting restless again, unsure what they were witnessing. This wasn't a fight anymore, it was something else entirely, something private and painful being played out under the harsh arena lights. I should have been a man about it, Tommy said quietly. Instead, I ran. Changed my name, changed my life, pretended it never happened. Built a new existence on top of your father's grave. Jason stepped back, his hands falling to his sides. For the first time since this began, he looked his age. Not the marble statue of vengeance, but a 43-year-old man carrying a weight he'd picked up as a child. You want to know something? Jason's voice was different now, hollow. I became a fighter because of you. Not in spite of what you did, but because of it. Every punch I threw in training I was throwing at you. Every fight I won, every title I earned. It was all preparation for this moment. The arena lights seemed harsher now, exposing too much. Tommy could see the crowd growing impatient, could hear the murmur of confusion rippling through the stands, but none of that mattered anymore. This moment had been building for 35 years, and it couldn't be rushed. And now? Tommy asked. Jason looked down at his hands, hands that had been shaped into weapons for the sole purpose of destroying the man in front of him. Now I don't know who I am if I'm not hunting you. The confession hung between them like a bridge over an abyss. Neither man moved, neither spoke. The past had finally caught up with the present, but instead of the clean resolution Jason had imagined, there was only this. Two broken men standing in the wreckage of a life that ended before either of them truly understood what living meant. The crowd began to boo. The boos cascaded down from the stands like a toxic waterfall, but Tommy barely heard them. His legs felt like water, and he gripped the ropes to keep from collapsing. The adrenaline that had carried him through the first round was ebbing, leaving behind the familiar ache of old bones and older regrets. Get back to your corners. The referee's voice cut through the noise, his patience finally exhausted. This ain't therapy, gentlemen. Fight or forfeit. Jason turned away first, walking to his corner with mechanical precision. Tommy watched him go, noting the slight favor of the right leg, an old injury maybe. Even gods of vengeance had their weaknesses. But as Tommy stumbled toward his own corner, he realized the most dangerous thing about Jason Statham wasn't his physical prowess. It was how lost he looked. Tommy's cornerman was a kid from the casino staff, maybe 22, who'd probably never seen a real fight outside of video games. He fumbled with a water bottle, his hands shaking as he tried to clean the cut above Tommy's eye. Jesus, mister, you're really bleeding, the kid whispered. Maybe you should, quit? Before Tommy could answer, he caught sight of movement in the front row. A man in an expensive suit was leaning over the barrier, whispering urgently to someone in the crowd. Tommy recognized the type, money man, connected, the kind who made problems disappear. As their eyes met for a split second, the man's expression shifted from calculation to something colder. Fear. 1 minute, the timekeeper called. Tommy looked across the ring toward Jason's corner and felt his blood freeze. Jason's cornerman wasn't some casino employee. He was a compact, scarred man with the look of someone who'd spent serious time in serious places. But it wasn't the cornerman that sent ice through Tommy's veins. It was how everyone around Jason's corner kept their distance. The casino security guards who'd been joking and laughing earlier now stood rigid, eyes averted. The ring girls huddled together, whispering. Even the referee kept glancing nervously toward Jason's corner between his instructions to the crowd. Who is that guy? Tommy asked his corner man, nodding toward Jason. The kid followed his gaze and went pale. You don't know? Shit, mister, nobody told you? He looked around frantically, as if afraid someone might overhear. They just call him the Londoner. Showed up 3 days ago with a suitcase full of cash, asking about local fighters. Word is he's connected to some serious people back east. The pieces clicked into place with sickening clarity. This wasn't some chance encounter. Jason hadn't just found him. He'd orchestrated everything. The traveling promoter, the random challenge from the audience, even Tommy's financial troubles that had forced him to consider this insanity in the first place. My shop, Tommy whispered. The missed payments, the threats from the bank. 30 seconds. Tommy's mind raced through the past 6 months. The sudden cancellation of his biggest contracts. The mysterious mechanical problems that kept customers away. The bank's unexpected acceleration of his loan payments. It hadn't been bad luck or a failing economy. It had been Jason, methodically destroying Thomas Malecki's life piece by piece, herding him toward this moment like a sheep to slaughter. The kid was still talking, his voice high with nerves. They say he's been asking questions around town. About you, specifically. People are scared, Mr. Malecki. Mrs. Henderson won't even say your name anymore. Tommy's chest tightened. Mrs. Henderson had been bringing her Buick to his shop for 15 years. She'd taught Sarah how to bake pie, had been like a grandmother to her. If Jason had gotten to her, if he'd threatened an old woman to get information, what kind of questions? About your daughter, your routines, where you live, where she works. The kid's voice dropped to barely a whisper. Mr. Malecki, whatever you did to piss this guy off, you need to end this. Now, before the bell rang. Jason rose from his corner like something carved from violence itself, but Tommy couldn't move. His daughter's face filled his mind, not as she was now, but as she'd been at 8 years old, the same age Jason had been when his father died. Sarah, in pigtails, sitting on his workbench, chattering about school while he changed spark plugs. Sarah at 16, fierce and determined, telling him she'd rather work at the shop than go to prom because cars don't lie to you, Dad. Sarah last week, dark circles under her eyes from worry about money, still trying to smile as she brought him coffee and pretended everything would work out fine. Jason was crossing the ring now, and Tommy could see something different in his approach. The cold fury was still there, but underneath it was something more immediate, something urgent. Time's up, old man, Jason said as he closed the distance. Round 2 isn't about my father anymore. Tommy forced himself upright, his ribs screaming in protest. What's that supposed to mean? Jason's smile was winter itself. It means I've been patient for 35 years, but my associates back east, they're not known for their patience, and they're very interested in meeting your daughter.